All right, and welcome everybody to this edition of the IU Hoops Halftime Report as your Indiana Hoosiers currently trailing 31-25 to Notre Dame. And, obviously an uneven first half for Indiana. I think defensively, you can be really pleased with a lot of things that Indiana is doing. Notre Dame, one of the best offensive teams in the country. I think they come in, scoring 1.17 or 1.18 points per possession per game. They're down at 1.01 points per possession. Which is really solid from Indiana. And I think what you really like defensively is just the solidness, not a lot of breakdowns creating wide open shots for Notre Dame. And obviously the rebounding. I mean, I think the story of the game for Indiana and the reason why Indiana is only down by 6 points right now is because the Hoosiers are doing a terrific job on the glass. Indiana rebounding 85% of Notre Dame's misses. Notre Dame only with 3 offensive rebounds, so just not allowing Notre Dame to get any second chance points. And that's really important because this team is good enough offensively. They don't need second chances. And so Indiana, really helping their defensive efficiency by making it one shot and done for Notre Dame. And so that has obviously been very helpful for Indiana. But on the flip side, Indiana continuing to struggle from a shooting perspective. You look at it, Indiana 3 of 12 from downtown, and all 3 of those came late in the half, and they were huge shots. I mean, you see the impact that three-point shooting makes for Indiana. The big stretch of the first half, happened there toward the end. Notre Dame goes up 28-14. They had that stretch. It was 22-14. Come out of a timeout. Notre Dame drains 2 threes on back-to-back possessions. I mean, it happens so fast, and that puts Notre Dame up 14. And at that point, it's really starting to feel like, man, this game may get out of hand. And so what happens? Well, the next possession, Colin Hartman comes down, drains a three-pointer. Just a huge shot to kind of settle things in a little bit. It's 28-17 at that point. And then Indiana goes on an 8-3 run from that point on as Colin Hartman hits another 3. And that made it 31-25. Now, you would have liked to get, a better shot, certainly on that last possession when the ball just slipped out of Robert Johnson's hand. But I think all things considered for Indiana, you kind of feel good that it's only a 6-point game, given how much you struggled offensively. And how ironic is it that Robert Johnson just throws up a 60-footer and swishes it? So I don't know if he's going to gain some confidence from that or if that's just going to make him more frustrated. Like, man, how are all these good looks not going in? And then I just fling it up. But there is something to be said there for, when he's just throwing that up, he's not thinking about it. That's all just muscle memory, tossing the ball up there, and it goes in. Now, I'm not trying to say that there's any skill involved in that, but there might be a slight lesson there for Robert, who looks like he's straining on every shot, and even though, he was able to knock down one of those 3-pointers, his shot just looks different every time. It looks like every shot is just the hardest thing that he's ever tried to do. So maybe he can take a lesson on that long 3-pointer. Just let it fly, man. You've taken a lot of shots. Just let it fly. Take your chances. So it's nice to see that shot go in. Look, I think, when you talk about things in the second half that need to improve, I think to only be down 6 and to have basically gotten nothing from Deron Davis offensively. I mean, literally, he has no points. He's only taken 1 field goal attempt. I did think he provided some nice minutes defensively when he was in there and did a nice job rebounding. And when he went out, kind of coincided with when Bonzi Colson got going. So I think to only be down 6 and to have not gotten anything from Deron Davis is big. I thought it was interesting. Archie Miller talked about how Deron, was open in the zone, but Indiana struggling to get him looks. And so I think early, we have really seen in the past, especially in big games, Indiana really go to Deron early in the second half. And so I would look for Indiana to really try to establish him, maximize whatever time we have from him in the second half, because that's always kind of the big wild card is how long is Deron going to be out there. Only played 7 minutes, but even in 7 minutes, it's surprising to see him only get 1 look, as important as he has been to this team. I think JaJuan Morgan has obviously done some nice things, 8 points, 5 rebounds, when was 4 for 4 to start, was really doing a nice job kind of doing his garbage man thing around the basket. When he's getting the ball kind of more in the flow of the offense, though, he's struggling, struggled kind of at the top of the zone, when he had some opportunities to get some looks, struggled in some post opportunities. And so I think for him, being quicker, being more decisive is obviously going to be big, but then continuing to find opportunities to get those kind of garbage pail points. I mean, those are important. And I think another guy who gets some credit for that is Zach McRoberts. Had 4 rebounds. How many of his rebounds were offensive? At least 3 of them. Yeah, 3 offensive rebounds. This team is so limited offensively, and they need as many extra looks as they can get because of how many threes they miss and because of how much they're turning the ball over, 7 turnovers today, that getting those extra looks on offensive rebounds are huge. And Zach McRoberts, 2 of JaJuan Morgan's buckets that he scored down low can be directly attributed to Zach McRoberts just hustling, tapping the ball, and creating those opportunities. And so if you want to know why he's out there playing, that is why. Obviously not a big threat offensively, but he's in the right spots defensively, creates those extra opportunities, kind of doing what Freddie McSwain used to do on the offensive glass, but also, playing that solid defense. We didn't get a chance to see much from Josh Newkirk, obviously, so hopefully he can come back and get in the flow of things there in the second half. And then I thought Devante Green, I didn't think he was very good in the first half. I think too often we see when Devante Green is playing perimeter defense, allowing his man to just turn the corner and get into the lane way too easily. I think Notre Dame's last bucket, or one of the last buckets that they scored, Gibbs just blows right by him on the left wing. And I think for a guy who, certainly when he came in as a recruit, really talked about priding himself on defense, Ryan's talked a lot about that on the show. I think he's got to compete better against ball handlers and keep guys out of the lane, keep guys in front of him. Devante's obviously not a big guy, but he's quick. And with positioning and in anticipation, he should be able to at least provide some more resistance to guys getting in the lane. And so you'd really like to see that. But I think in terms of some of Indiana's keys, transition defense was a big key. No fast break points for Notre Dame. And I think, Notre Dame has gotten out on the run a few times after bad shots. But I think for the most part, if it's not a live ball turnover or a really bad shot, Indiana's done a nice job in terms of the fast break defense. I think Indiana's been pretty solid on Farrell. He has 3 points and 3 assists, but he's, not just taking over the game. And so I think that is good. And obviously the rebounding has been good. So I think all things considered, I thought for a stretch there, we saw some of the best defense we've seen from an Indiana team in a while. And so I think that continues to be encouraging. And if some of the three-point shooting that we saw toward the end of the half by Hartman and Robert Johnson can sustain itself and carry into the second half, I like Indiana's chances to compete for 40 minutes in this game if they keep up the defense and if they keep up the rebounding. But we are not going to beat really good teams, and Notre Dame is a really good team, without being able to knock down shots. And so I think you saw that there at the end of the first half. We got back into this game because we knocked down some shots. That has to continue. And, you don't always want to say that it boils down to making shots and missing shots, but sometimes it does, especially in tight games against good teams. And so I think, you look to the keys of the second half. I think Indiana's got to get Deron Davis involved. You're not going to win games with him only getting 1 shot. And so I think if he can get 10 to 12 points in the second half, 5 or 6 really good looks, maybe doesn't need 10 to 12 points, but 5 or 6 good looks, 8 to 10 points, I think that'd be really big. I think Indiana's obviously got to make shots and then continue to rebound and defend. And if Indiana can do that, then we've got a chance to kind of save our NCAA tournament hopes against Notre Dame at the Crossroads Classic again. We did it a couple years ago with a nice comeback. Maybe we can do it here again today. So that's what we'll be looking for in the second half. Join me and Ryan on the post-game show right here on YouTube, or you can join us at the website, assemblycall.com, and we'll be here to talk about it all with you after the game. Thank you for being here with me for the halftime report, and we'll talk to you soon. Talk to you after the game.